Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and thank you, Minister. Now, the first question I want to ask you is about the announcement of the investment in the student accommodation this week. How much funding will be allocated in the 2023 to unlock the student accommodation projects that have been sat on the shelf for years?
Yeah, so the figure which has been approved by government is 32 million euros, and as you've described it correctly, it's to unlock planning permissions which are ready to be taken up. So we're looking at Galway, Limerick and Maynooth as the three locations. So the government approved a decision this week, as you know, and what will then happen is the department will arrange for expressions of interest to be advertised. That will be an opportunity for interested parties to express an interest in developing their student accommodation. What's that? Sorry, we have to get Commission approval. We expect that won't be an issue, but that will be part of that will run in parallel with our department formulating a formal expression of interest. So the idea is that it will be the University of Limerick, Galway University and Maynooth University. It will be to broadly students who are attending those universities. It will be student accommodation to facilitate students attending those universities. It's envisaged that that amount of money will provide 670 bed spaces approximately.
Can I ask you, in Galway, is that in addition to the ones that were already announced for Galway? Because there was a couple of hundred there that were at an advanced stage, so that's over and above those. Yeah. So these are new ones that are just.
Yeah, I suppose the issue, as we all know, is the cost of construction for the developers or the promoters of student accommodation. So this is going to be a scheme which will be a partnership between the three universities and promoters of student accommodation, where the state will be looking to, I suppose, how the money will apply. The state will look to subvent the cost to the student as against what the student is receiving from their SUSI grant. That's the type of model to bridge that gap, because of the cost of construction. In order for anybody to make a student accommodation scheme pay, the cost is obviously above what
I understand in terms of the financial viability and the challenges around that. Does that mean all of the units will be affordable? Like, is part of the condition of the funding that all of the units that are funded in the particular projects will be affordable, or is it a number? Is it a subset within that?
Yeah, what is in there? It could be between 30 and 100%. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it'll depend on what the European Commission. It'll be between 30 and 100% of the beds will form part of.
Between 30, that's a big figure, between 30 and 100%. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, Minister, I really want to see that. What I'm afraid will happen, I want to see all of the beds being affordable, because what I'm afraid will happen is that there will be a big chunk of them that will still demand prices that are not affordable to ordinary students. And I think we just need to be careful of that in terms of the deals that we work out with the HEIs. All of them need to be affordable. I'd make that point.
Yeah,
this is the right way to go in terms of investment.
It's state aid, and it's a state aid intervention, and that has to pass. We know that we know what that means. It has to pass muster with Europe. I suppose in parallel to say. Also, and you'll be aware that this is progressing and it's a work in progress in terms of allowing our technological universities to borrow to build student accommodation. That's been worked on in parallel. So that's separate to what we've just been discussing heretofore, allowing our technological universities, because by virtue of the legacy legislation that they operated under as institutes of technology that they couldn't borrow.
I think we need to be careful as well around those. Again, that has been long called for and that, but in terms of the public-private partnerships there, and just in terms of what that model ends up looking like, I would just caution again there that we get proper value for the investment and the absolute necessary investment that we're making. I don't believe that 32 million is nearly enough. I know it's a start in the right direction, but there will be much more than that needed. So I'll leave it there, the accommodation. But in terms of the reduction of the fees, it's only for this year, and next year the fees for the college will go up again to 2,500 for most and back to 3,000 for some come next September. Is that the case, Minister?
100,000.
That again will be a big shock.
Yeah, so €1,000 reduction this year, refund to most who had it paid in full, or a credit for those who haven't, who are paying it by instalment. And next year, anybody, the threshold is €100,000. So people, where your income falls below the threshold of €100,000, the student contribution 2,500.
We still have, we still have a situation where we have very high fees. We have many countries in the EU who can provide third level education without any fees, and I really think we need to be examined going further in that direction so that third level education is affordable for everybody. I want to go on to, and I know that you're aware of that only about half of the PhD researchers are funded through the organisations, the IRC and the FFI. These researchers, earn far below the minimum wage through the stipend, and the poverty wage is damaging our research system. Why has the decision been made to only provide the €500 once-off payment? It's only €500, but why is the decision being made to only provide it to IRC and SFI-funded PhD researchers?
Those two organisations are within the remit of our department, whereas you mentioned Teagasc, wasn't it?
No, the others outside of that, not just Teagasc.
They're in other government departments. We can only concern ourselves with ones under the aegis of our own department.
We absolutely have to focus on bringing equity to our researchers, not only for them as individuals in terms of them being driven into poverty with accommodation costs and everything else, but in terms of where we're going and staying ahead of research and development. We need to encourage more researchers. We have wonderful researchers. You would have met them. I've met some of them. We need to encourage more, and the way we do that is by treating them fairly and ensuring that they have enough to live on.
I think it's a fair point, but we did inform other departments of what we were doing in relation to the agencies under our own remit. But I think the equity point you make is fair. Yeah. And there is a review, there's a review in terms of, it was announced in October. I have the scope of the review. Are you aware? I can...
Yeah. And so when will that review be concluded, I suppose? When are people going to, when are we going to...
Yeah, we'll get you a note on that.
If you can, just because I think it's something that we need to keep on top of, and something that we need to address.
It's just commenced anyway, it was announced in October, it's just commenced.
Now, just look at, I note here that you claim to be providing an additional 8 million for the Student Assistance Fund. What will be the total allocation for the fund for this academic year? Yeah.
So in the year 2021-22, the total allocation was €18.5 million. In the year 2022-2023 to date, the total amount provided to date is €17.1 million. And I can step it back 2 years in the year 2021-22, 2020-2021 it was 18.2, and in the year 2019-2020 it was 10.1. I have a breakdown of the allocations to each of the different colleges. If you want me to run through them, I can. Or we
No,
can,
it's okay. I am concerned that some of the colleges, that there's caps being put on the funding that I've been made aware of, that students have been told to, that they'll only get half as much as they got last year. Now, I spoke to Minister Harris about this before. I know some of the colleges in the West that were told this, and this would really be a concern to me. So, and in terms, I think, of how we're announcing this funding, I think we need to be careful, because when we announce an additional allocation, so say for last year we had the 17.2 million, and the allocation to fund this year was 18.2 million. So while we're announcing things like there's an additionality to it all of the time, I think we need to enable colleges to plan. It's very difficult for colleges to plan and for students' unions to plan around what they have. So we're announcing it and we're raising expectations as if there's additions there all the time, but there isn't. I know what you said from other years before COVID, but when we're looking in the last 2 years, there isn't the additionality of the 8 million there, and I just think again something we need to be conscious of.
Well, just on a breakdown, if we take the year 2021-22, the General Student Assistance Fund was 18.1. There was an allocation of 1 million for part-time students. There was a COVID or cost of living additional funding in the year 21-22 of 8.1 and 1.3, and that rolled up into 18.5. Similarly, for the year 2022-23, it's 8.1, 1 million for part-time, and again 8 million for COVID-19 cost of living, rolling up to 17.1. I hadn't heard what you were referring to in terms of students who applying to the student assistance funds were being told they could only get half of what they got in previous years. The autonomy is with the local HEI, but just broadly, and it's not an exhaustive list, you can look at books or other class material to enable students to continue to participate in teaching and learning. You can get payments for rent, heating, lighting bills, other utility bills, mobile phone, data plans, food, essential travel, childcare costs, medical costs, family difficulties, for example, bereavement. So it's a pretty broad criteria, and you know how it works. You know.
And I know, of course I do, and it's very valuable and it's very useful.
Yeah.
And what I think when students hear the millions and millions, and then they're really struggling, and they don't have enough for their heating, or they don't have enough for their accommodation and for other basic things, I just think that we need to be aware of that when we're announcing like an 8 million, an additional 8 million, when we don't really see an additional 8 million, and some are then finding that they're cut half of what they got last year. I know that this year, and I think one of the reasons maybe for it, that more and more students have to access the Student Assistance Fund because of the difficulties that they're having around that. Can I just ask you as well, and just maybe you might just follow up on that, when we had the Dyspraxia Society in last week, they were really pleading for laptops, and I wonder if all the laptops that were distributed to the HEIs have been all used, or is there a way that we could, just send out a note to the HEIs asking that any of the laptops that haven't been used, if they could be taken back and redistributed to Dyspraxia Ireland, because what they were explaining was, if you have dyspraxia, having a laptop is absolutely vital to ensuring that they can participate fully in their education, and many of them don't have that. don't have access to laptops. It's just another thing that's kind of just come to me while I've been talking.
Okay,
We could
get back
look
to
at
that.
And maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Lovely.